Welcome. Today we embark on the most important and intriguing journey a human can take, deep into your own consciousness. We're taught from childhood that we are our body and the brain is a thought generator that will inevitably fade. But what if science has long uncovered evidence that literally shatters this dogma? We won't be talking about faith or mysticism. We'll be talking about facts gathered over decades of research at leading universities worldwide, evidence that points to a stunning conclusion: consciousness exists independently of the physical body and is potentially immortal. Are you ready to face the most crucial knowledge about yourself? Then buckle up. This is the science of consciousness, the crisis of materialism. The brain as a receiver, not a generator. The traditional, outdated paradigm of neuroscience states, consciousness is a product of the brain. Thoughts, memory, personality, all are complex chemical and electrical reactions. When the brain ceases to function, your self dies. This is materialism. However, this model has huge gaps. The main one is the hard problem of consciousness. How can billions of neural impulses give rise to subjective experience? The sensation of red, the feeling of love, or self-awareness? Science still hasn't found an explanation. Here, an alternative, scientifically supported model takes the stage: the reduction or filter theory of consciousness. This theory, rooted in the work of philosopher Henry Bergson and later developed by neuropsychologist Karl Pribram, suggests the brain is not a generator of consciousness, but its reducer or filter. Imagine the universe is permeated by fundamental, non-local consciousness. This is a field of information and energy from which everything is made. Your brain is a highly complex receiver, like a radio. It doesn't create radio waves. It tunes in to a specific frequency to localize a part of this infinite consciousness within your physical form. Why is this important? If the brain is only a reducer, then when it's damaged or turned off, for example, during a clinical cessation of function, consciousness doesn't disappear. On the contrary, the filter is temporarily deactivated, and consciousness gains access to its true, boundless nature. This explains phenomena that materialism cannot account for, and the most striking of these is the clinical transition, the experience beyond the body. The phenomenon of near-death experiences, NDEs, is the cornerstone of consciousness science. Over the past 50 years, thousands of people who survived a clinical cessation of life activity have returned with strikingly similar accounts. Dr. Sam Parnia, one of the world's leading resuscitation researchers, heads projects that systematically study NDEs in medical facilities. His work focuses on one simple question: can consciousness function when the brain is inactive? What happens during a clinical transition? 1. The brain stops working. After cardiac arrest, blood flow to the brain ceases. Electrical activity, EEG, in the brain quickly drops to zero. There can be no thought, no memory, no sensation. 2. Then, NDEs. It is precisely at this moment, when the brain is dead or in a deep coma, that people report incredibly vivid, structured, and logical experiences. Key evidence: out-of-body experiences, OBEs. Patients often describe leaving their body and observing the resuscitation from above. Many recount in detail the procedures performed by staff, conversations, and even objects they couldn't possibly see from a lying position. Dr. Parnia and other researchers record verifiable cases. Nurses hid symbol cards on high shelves that patients could only see during their out-of-body journey. Hyperclarity of consciousness. Instead of the expected chaos or hallucinations from a dying brain, NDE experiencers describe a consciousness that became many times clearer than in a normal state. They feel completely free from pain, fear, and bodily limitations. Encounter with light beings. Many describe entering a tunnel and meeting a source of unconditional love and light. This energy is often perceived as a conscious, non-physical being that communicates with them telepathically, without words. Life review. An instantaneous, panoramic review of all actions and thoughts in their life, accompanied by a deep understanding of their impact on others. Important, they experience not only their own emotions, but also the emotions of everyone they affected. Conclusion: NDES strongly suggests that self-awareness, memory, and logical thinking can function when the brain is fully deactivated. This is the most direct proof that our self is not limited to the brain. Quantum non-locality in the holographic universe. To fully understand how consciousness can exist beyond the body, we must turn to the most fundamental science, quantum mechanics. The main principle of the quantum world is non-locality. This means two elementary particles that once interacted can be separated by vast distances, yet remain instantaneously connected. The change in state of one particle immediately and simultaneously changes the state of the other. The connection exists but is not transmitted through space. It is non-local. Non-locality in consciousness. If consciousness is a non-local phenomenon, it is not confined to your skull. It is distributed, just like the quantum field. The pioneer of neurobiology Carl Pribram collaborated with physicist David Bohm to propose the holographic model of the universe in the brain. 1. The universe as a hologram. Bohm argued that our ordinary reality, space, time, matter, is only an unfolded, explicit order of a deeper, enfolded, implicate reality. In this hidden reality, everything is interconnected and non-local. 2. The brain as a decoder. Pribram suggested that the brain uses holographic principles to encode and retrieve memory and experience. Memory isn't stored in one specific neuron. It's distributed throughout the entire brain, like a hologram. When we receive information, the brain decodes non-local information from the universe and translates it into our local, subjective experience. What does this mean for immortality? If our consciousness is part of the non-local, implicate order, then it has always existed and will always exist in that fundamental reality. The final point of physical existence of the body is simply the process during which the brain stops decoding and localizing that information. Consciousness simply returns to its non-local, boundless state. It doesn't die, it expands and becomes part of the whole again. Evidence of memory and identity after cessation of life. Evidence that personality, memory, and self-awareness can persist after the final transition of the body comes from two fields: reincarnation research and the phenomenon of terminal lucidity. 1. Terminal lucidity. This phenomenon is observed in hospices and hospitals worldwide. A patient who has suffered from a severe form of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, or other degenerative brain disorders for months or even years, suddenly, a few hours or minutes before their passing, becomes completely lucid. They recognize relatives, speak clearly and logically, recall distant events, and sometimes speak a long-forgotten language. Then, just as suddenly, the separation from the body occurs. Why is this impossible for materialism to explain? Dementia and Alzheimer's cause physical and irreversible destruction of brain tissue. The restoration of cognitive functions, memory, and personality in the final moments of life, despite a totally ravaged brain, is an absolute refutation of the idea that consciousness is generated by the brain. A logical explanation: the brain as a filter finally breaks down, and consciousness, no longer held back by the damaged tissues, returns to its full, original clarity before definitively leaving the body. 2. University of Virginia, UVA research. The Division of Perceptual Studies, DOPS, at the University of Virginia, led by Dr. Jim Tucker, has been collecting and analyzing thousands of documented cases of children's memories of past lives for over 60 years. Key characteristics: young children, usually between the ages of 2 and 5, spontaneously begin reporting details of the life of someone else who lived elsewhere and met their final transition through violent or sudden means. Verification. UVA researchers meticulously track down the family of the deceased person described by the child and verify up to 100 or more details. In a surprising number of cases, thousands, the information provided by the child is fully verified. Names, addresses, physical appearance details, and circumstances of the cessation of life. Physical evidence. In some cases, children have birthmarks or congenital defects on their bodies that exactly match the fatal wound's bullet holes, burn marks that caused the previous personality's passing. Conclusion: this data, collected with scientific rigor, indicates that some part of the personality, including memory and emotional patterns, can survive the body's cessation of function and transfer to a new one. Implications and a revolution in understanding life. We have examined 3 pillars of consciousness science: the brain as a filter, the functioning of consciousness during a clinical transition, and evidence of memory preservation after separation from the body. All point to one thing: your self is far more vast and immortal than you thought. What does this change? The fear of the end dissipates. The most profound consequence: if the final transition is not an end, but merely an expansion of consciousness and a return to the non-local field, the fear of passing loses its power. 2. The ethics of life. NDE experiencers almost always change their worldview. They stop valuing the material and start valuing relationships and love. Remember, during the life review, they experience the emotions of those they impacted. Every action we take is non-local. It affects everything. 3. Rethinking health. If the brain is a filter, then our mental and physical health depends on tuning this filter. Illnesses may not just be chemical malfunctions, but a signal of mismatch between the local self, the body, and the non-local consciousness. Your consciousness is not a random chemical byproduct, but a fundamental, eternal component of the universe. You were not born just to make a final transition. You are part of something infinite, manifested in this unique form. The science of consciousness is a field that challenges the outdated dogmas of materialism and demands a new, more complete understanding of reality. The evidence of immortality beyond the body has been gathered and verified. The next time you look in the mirror, remember, you are seeing not a limit, but a tool that allows infinite consciousness to experience this incredible local, material adventure. Your task is to live so that this adventure is filled with meaning, growth, and, most importantly, love. Because ultimately, as all research shows, we are all one, and our most important lesson is how we loved. Thank you for taking this journey with me. May this knowledge bring you the freedom and courage you deserve.